Hello guys and welcome to, I can never set myself correctly before this camera, but welcome to another episode of Common Deck Building. You know, the show where I take commons, build decks around it and rage the hell out of these cards that are sometimes so outdated you would say why the hell they even exist. So last time, and sorry for my throat, for my voice, it's a little bit rusty, but I hope you will forgive me. So last time we were on this clan bangers that was just all over trash when it comes to commons and had to make up with uncommons. Now we go to the second clan who has the bonus power +2. But will the story repeat itself, or will we reverse the curse? Some survivor fans will probably get that reference. Will we have the same story? Well, let's see. Surprisingly, Uluwatu is way different than Bangers, because Uluwatu had a time where it was one of the least played clans in the whole game. So the team decided to boost it as strong as possible. And now that the game is more concentrated on cards with high power, Uluwatu is perfect for that, because it is the clan that works differently than Bangers. Bangers was putting more on damage, eventually abilities. Uluwatu flips this around and focuses more on power and life manipulation, where Bangers is more for pill manipulation. And this mix can sometimes be deadly in today's meta. But I'm jumping a little bit the gun, and let's take us 2 steps back and talk about the commons. So the common department is actually pretty rich in 2 and 3 stars, even though some of them are very outdated. Let me check my notes and tell you which one we're not gonna talk about today, because they're just so trash. In 2 stars department we got Sandy's. Then there's the 3-star department. Oh boy, there we have a lot to talk about. Machan, unusable. Tatha, probably unusable, but I use her in 1 deck, so we're gonna come back to this card. You won't use them. I think that's all. Surprisingly, even though it's an old clan, their cards are still pretty playable. When it comes to Sandy, it screams outdated. Power 2, damage 4. The damage is actually pretty decent, but you're not gonna use her, trust me. She doesn't even have a mission for herself, so just buy it for the collection. When it comes to Machan, don't get fooled by the artwork. It got remastered, that's why it looks like it's you, but it's actually pretty old. Power 2, damage 5, ability none, and the worst thing about it is this card has its own mission. You have to win the fight with this card in a KO. That's how bad it is. Don't play it. But there's one department that is just lacking. Let's just say it. It's lacking. But one at a time, 2 stars. And 2 stars have, wow, they have a pretty solid choices here. We have some guys that are in the 6th league. We have some guys that are in the 4th league. Some outdated, yes, but still, besides Sandy, that we're not gonna talk about anyway, you can use any 2-star up to League 2. So this is pretty interesting. Let's run it down. We're starting off with Warren. So Warren has only 3 power and 3 damage. And somebody could say at this point, yeah, this card is wasteless, it's trash. But for the beginner, it's actually pretty good because of its ability, copy up on its power. You will very often see that enemies will gonna play on high power cards, which is perfect for Warren. Of course, beware of SOA at this point, but even though it lacks the protection of being stable, you can still deal some sweet 3 damage and stop cards with high power. Recommended for beginners and is the cheapest 2-star, so definitely take it, please. Next up, Sam. Sam is that new generation card with power 8th. 8th power. Damage 2 and the ability cancel pill modification. So when it comes to the cancel ability, you probably still too unexperienced to know what it's about. Basically, when you win or lose the fight, the card of the opponent that has any pill manipulation, plus pill, minus pill, it's not working at this point. It's pretty cheap too, and it's up to all the leagues. But and this is because of his ability. You can definitely try out, but don't get too excited because of its ability. Next, Coralie. Outdated. How do I know? Then damage stat 1 is pretty terrible. Of course, power 7 stable, which is great in watu, and the ability cure 1 maximum 10. I think that was the time that we're trying cure out. What are the boundaries for cure good, because it could be a new ability back then. The cost is cheap, as you can see. It's a cheap card too, 1095 up to League 4. That's not bad, but I don't think it's worth running that much. It's good, don't get me wrong. It's good. It's not too outdated, but it's not the best either. Now we have a pretty interesting take. We have Jeff with power and damage only 2 and the ability power plus 5. It's an old card, as you can see. It's usable, don't get me wrong, with 2 stars and the cost of 1200. It's only up to League 2, which shows us that it's outdated. Yeah, we know it's outdated, but like I said earlier in the video, they tried to revamp this clan as strong as they could, and from this card came up later 2 cards that are better than this. One of this I'm gonna talk right now. The other one is funny, with 7 power 2 damage, power plus 2 and power plus 2. And the other one, Reef, basically fills in the same role with power 7, damage 2 and the ability protection power. So the stats are practically the same. The use of the ability is actually the same, but it's more important on Jeff, because on Jeff you need the ability to have the same stats. As you can see, a newer card up to League 4, and surprisingly it's even cheaper than Jeff. I don't know why. Both cards are playable. It depends actually on you which one you want to use. Do you want to play it safe or a little bit more risky and tricky? The next card is really good. My personal favorite in 2 stars, Orlando, because Orlando has only 4/4. But if you play your cards right, that beast changes to a virtual, I said virtual, A4. With confidence -2 power minimum 1, and his bonus is a pretty solid card. And damage 4? Come on, it's damage 4 on a 2 star, for Christ's sake, it's good! With cost 1250, it's a hidden gem in this 2 star com department. You should definitely pick it up, and it's even up to League 4, so it's even better at this point. And the last card, which exceeds when it comes to cost with over 200 cleanse, but still, Pietro. Somebody could say, wait, this card's trash, only 5 power, 1 damage, it's terrible. But look at the ability. It says +2 life per damage. It's a high risk, high reward card. Very tricky to play, very hard to pull off. Not the best pick for beginners, but if you get some experience, pick this card up, try it out, and hey, it's available in all the EFC League at this point. You should try it out, but not at the beginning, a little bit later. But it's still good, don't get me wrong. The next are 3 stars, and by God, 3 stars are not that bad either. Some cards are only for League 1, and like I said, there will be a card that even though it's weak, it's really cheap, so I put it in the deck, but I'm gonna justify it later. And besides that, the newer cards tend to be stronger. When we have a card up to like 5 or 6, that will be probably really good and in most of the decks. So let's run them down and see what makes them special.
I have to say it right away. I personally like Tatha. It's not that it's the best card in the world. No, it's actually pretty outdated too. But I think it's still playable. It looks like a typical Kimberly. But the difference between a typical Kimberly, a typical Sid Knows, and this card is that this card has actually an ability. And it's because of this ability that it's worth a damn. With the bonus, she gets only 5/5. High risk, high reward. The SOB is there to help her actually break through with these 5 damages, and is the cheapest 3-star. You can pick it up at the beginning, and I put her on the first deck, so try her out. Next, Ice Gym, power 6, damage 3, pretty solid with stop opponent's ability. You know how this goes, you need an SOA in your deck basically. SOA is one of the best abilities you can have because it blocks some of the crazy stuff that the opponent can have in his ability. So it's good. It's only up to like 2 sadly, but still it's good. And it's great that they kept this card because there was another card with 7 power, 3 damage and stop ability on courage, which was common also. They were really similar in usage, but Lin B got a CR. She's a collector, so great that Ice Gym stayed. Next, Janice, and surprise, surprise, what do we have here? Power 6, damage 5. Wow, that's pretty good for a 3-star. And the ability power plus 3? Wait, this card is indestructible. Hold up, there is a stop there. The stop indicates that this card can only activate its ability when the ability is actually stopped by SOA, so stop opponent's ability, and that's what brings this card down. It's still a good card, don't get me wrong. The 5 damage is really sweet, and it's up to like 4. Great, cost cheap. Play this card, and maybe you will fire off her ability. Next, Douglas. Douglas is just, I would say, a beat stick with 7 power, 4 damage, and the ability just to protect his bonus. So that means he's a 9/4 beat stick. It's good, decent, nothing great about it, but not bad either. And he's up to League 5, which makes him pretty solid. It's that middle down the road card that you know you can put it at the beginning, but you will probably switch for something better. So try this card out for yourself. If it's good, play it. If not, switch it. Simple as it is. Next is Fuzzy June. Power 7, damage 4, and life plus 3. Again, great, but hold up, hold your horses. Like I said last time, it's too good to be true. Look at the stop. Just look at the stop. It's another card that will rarely use its ability. That's why it's got these pretty decent stats with 7/4. You can definitely use her as a beat stick, and if you land against Geist or my worst type of clan that I can play, Roots, you have a big chance to actually make up some damage life gap, so play it. Next, Sean. I love this card. I really do love this card. Why do I love this card? Because its ability doesn't seem to be dangerous. Only power and damage plus 1, and it's on reprisal. How bad can it be? It's really bad. With the bonus, and if you play it right, 10/5 beat stick. It makes the opponent to overpill, or you get sweet 5 damage on the opponent. It's great. It's up to like 5. The problem is getting expensive. Fuzzy June was like 1,150 something claims. This is 1,700. So save some money. Next, Kirk. Another one in which you have to save money. But it's a really stable card. No one can beat him in his department because it's a card with minus damage It's a -3 damage, minimum free, high minimum, but still okay because this card is also a little bit outdated, only up to League 3. With 7 power, 3 damage, stable. Ability, pretty stable. The problem is the cost. It will cost you somewhere around 1,900. So you have to save money for this one also. But this one is worth it, trust me. Kirk is the only DR in common, so we use him. And the last one, Eugene. Eugene, the greatest 3-star in this selection of 3 stars in Uluwatu. 7 power, 4 damage, ability, lose life +2. This card is used even in the best decks. From time to time I can see her in EFC. This card is up to League 5. Pretty usable. Stars only 3, doesn't take too much space, and it reduces the damage of the opponent with this lose life +2. And from time to time you can even win with this card. The problem is the cost. As you can see a pattern, the cards that are used from the best players are the most expensive. Save some money and get.
And now we get to the weak point of this claim. In Bangers, we had 4 stars that could make up for the lack of 3 stars, even though the game is heavily based on 3-star cards. In this case, we have trash 4 stars. Seriously. One of them is so trash, it's even more expensive than the better one. So it's so bad. But let's see what they actually give us in that common department.
So let's start the trash talk real quick. We have Coralie with power 6, power 5, sorry, damage 6, no ability, 4 stars, and the cost of almost 1,200 clints. She's only up to League 2, so you won't use her in any AFC to begin with. And no ability whatsoever to boost her. Of course, it's a 7-6 beat stick. She can stand off against a little bit of DR, but it's still nothing. And don't get please fooled by the new artwork. It got revamped last year. The same goes for the next card, which is even worse than this one. Razor with power 4, damage 6, and no ability as well. And this card can only be in dark corners. Coralie, you can use her in Choco Muscle Ring, so the link number 2, okay, it's not that terrible. This card is pretty trash, and I just didn't put that card on the earlier part with the useless cards, just because I don't have any more 4 stars to talk in this section. This is how bad it is when it comes to 4-star section. But there is a card in the uncommon, pretty cheap, that can make up for it. Well, don't play these cards, don't!
And last but not least, the 5 stars department. And like I said, there's usually only one choice, rarely 2. And this is no different. We have only one choice, but a solid one, thank God.
We can end this movie luckily with a good note. On a good note. Why we can do it? Because Santley is pretty good. Power 6, damage 8 with the bonus is an 8-8 to begin with. And his ability, you don't have to rely on it, but it sure as hell boosts you. With confidence, attack +12. So you have to win the previous round, but still, it's pretty useful. So sadly, is a must-have at this point. The cost, 4,300 clints, only up to League 3, but you need to have this card because it will be essential in your deck. Use it!
So let's see now, what decks have I managed to build with these cards. It's a large selection, and even though it's in one department lacking, we still can make a decent deck.
So a quick reminder now. The tourney deck is the most cheap. The survivor deck is mostly based on power and or pill manipulation, and the EFC is mostly based on the leaks and the most expensive out of the commons who get the ultimate experience. So let's start with tourney. I pull in Coralie, but you will easily switch this with an uncommon 4-star. I am aware of that. Then we have Orlando because it's just good. Reef for some stable action. Ice Gym just to block the opponent, Janice, Fuzzy June because they're stable, Tatha just to troll the enemy, and Santley. Santley will be in all of these 3 decks. Then we have Survivor, Santley stays, Janice stays, Fuzzy June stays, especially these 2 stay because there's a higher chance for a clan with SOA in the bonus. Coralie stays, but you can switch her out with an uncommon. Then we have Sam and Pietro. Pietro, high risk, high reward. Sam, stable to block those nasty piranhas, those nasty riots, and those nasty junks that have all pill manipulation. Then we have Kirk, because we need a DR, a good DR, and it's the only DR. And Sean just for raw power, for raw beatdown on the enemy. And last but not least, EFC. This deck, especially this deck, is up to League 3. Why? Because Santley's can be only played at League 3, and also Kirk can be only played at League 3. Orlando can be switched out with Sam. It's your decision. You can use either of these 2 depending on what do you need. Stable power or more damage. Eugene has to make this cut. Douglas, good beat stick. Still have Janice, Fuzzy June, which is great, but no 4-star because in the comment section there are no good 4-stars. So these are the 3 decks that I came up with in each of the competitive modes.
And that's all for today. Of course, there will be an other episode where I'm gonna be talking about uncommons, you know, the cards that are cheap enough to make it into the deck, and you can switch out some of these. And surprisingly, there are just 7 uncommon cards that make the cut. So there will be also a lot to talk about there. But that's all for today. I see you in the next episode, and remember to always stay awesome drawing your last card. See ya.